Pretty good.
Oh, hang on. This meeting's
You
being
know,
recorded. Got it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
How is the Czech Republic treating
Oh,
you?
dude, it's awesome, man. I love it here.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in Twyford.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm basically, wasn't meant to be here. You know the situation. Are we record? Is this? Are we starting now? Is this the whole?
We're recording it. It's gonna go out, but who cares?
Oh, right, okay.
Because I kind of want to catch up with you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, all good, mate. Yeah. So basically, post vaccination, Mum went through a nightmare up in Doncaster. I see alarm bells daily, twice daily. I was there with my father, taking him to Doncaster Royal Infirmary, then the care home, blah blah blah, for 10 months, 10 straight months last year. It was horrendous, mate. And so I wanted mum in a better place. I wanted mum in a care home that had facilities for care to actually, to try and get her better. There was no care package in place where she was, no rehabilitation. Physios was letting her down, cancellations after cancellations of MRI scans. Of It was just horrendous, Nick. And I just
oh, lost your audio again.
sorry, one of the lads is calling, one of the team. He's probably had a big fish, no doubt. so so anyway, I put pressure on the NHS and the seniors up in Doncaster saying, look, you're failing on this, 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 this. Yes, we've let Susan down. Yes, we're letting your mum down. They all admitted. So
Mm.
we got her down to a place in Reading called Beecher Hall. They've got doctors on site, physiotherapy team on site, a proper gym on site, all the facilities for mum, what she needed. So we moved her down to Reading, and I obviously had to move my father down to Reading as well. So a little village called Twyford outside Reading. I don't know if you know it. 20 minutes from Slough, Bracknell, kind of in that area. And basically, literally, after mum had been moved down, within 2 weeks, we was told that mum was put on palliative care in July. This was December. We were shocked. We didn't have no idea. To the point where the transportation from Doncaster to Reading was illegal. You shouldn't transfer a lady in palliative care 5 hours in a back of an ambulance, with no medication, no paperwork, because if something would have happened in the back of the ambulance, the paramedics didn't know. Said, "What's your mum's condition? We don't know what's going on. We know she's got a trachea and we know she's got a peg. What else is wrong with your mum?" Oh, it was a nightmare, Nick. So anyway, she's been here 2 weeks and passed away.
Mm.
Um, Awful. Bless her little heart. And ever since, I've been kind of with my dad once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks, depending on work where I am in the country doing what I'm doing. But um, I've been caring for my father, and that's how life is now, mate. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I obviously we keep track of each other on social media,
yeah,
and I'm really sorry to hear about what happened because I know you're like me, a mummy's boy, and when we lose our mothers, like the world just it changes, and
yeah, yeah,
I know for me it was a really really dark time, and it took me a long time to get out of, but it's always going to be a hole there, and then
yeah, definitely, yeah.
yeah,
I never leave.
nothing will ever fill it, but
I
I,
actually,
I'm
Nick, I actually remember, Nick, when we actually set up a meeting, me, you, and Nicky Chin, to meet up in London, Covent Garden, to have some beers, have some wings, and at Maple Leaf. Remember this?
mm,
And me and Nicky Chin was in there, and we was like, "Where's Nick? Where's Nick?" And we got the call from you to say that your mum passed that day, and we was like, oh, "God," we were shocked as much as obviously you was.
yeah.
So God bless your mum there, mate, and yeah, we was there that day when the first day when you called, and we was like, I got emotional through this. Um, this actually helped me, Nick. You don't know this, but you telling us, me and Nicky Chin, while we're having a beer, that you couldn't join us because of your mum's passing, um, got me emotional. Got Nicky Chin emotional. We started drinking beers, and the stories and everything starts flowing. Okay, and it was to that point when everything got on top of me, and I started crying, and I hadn't cried for years, right? And so, with what you told us, that news, it all got to us. And then I started telling Nicky Chin how I had suicidal thoughts and how I was um, planning this and doing this. And, you know, I was on alcohol, I was on painkiller addiction. I was so low when I was in Spain, in Marbella, and blah, blah, blah. And I wanted it all to end. And I remember getting belts together, and I had 7 belts strapped together. And I was thinking these kind of things with belts, you know where I'm coming here. And the trigger point was you, Nick, calling us that day. You don't know this, but you do now. Straight up.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was like that was a big turning point that day, because with that phone call, if I hadn't been there to meet you and to meet Nicky Chin at Maple Leafs in Covent Garden, I probably would have done something stupid, you know?
Mm.
And I mean that. I'm filling up now, but whew, that was the day that turned my life around in a way. It really was, mate. Yeah, straight up. And you don't know that, and I'm telling you now. So there we go.
You know, it's odd how all of our lives are so interwoven and intertwined, with connection and vulnerability and stories and things that happen to us, events that challenge us throughout our lives, and how hockey has been this thing that has brought us all together. Whether we played each other against each other a couple of times, or I covered you on Sky Sports, like we've always got this bond, Mark, and I'm glad that we're getting through what we're getting through, because the only way through is through, and all the challenges that we've been through, we're here talking to each other, and emotional. We haven't even started yet,
Yeah,
but
I know.
there's
I
a
know.
yeah, there's a lot of love there, and I'm really grateful that you're here, and
Yeah.
we can do this chat together today. So yeah,
Isn't,
I'm
isn't
glad you
it,
could be here.
Nick, isn't it strange where you don't, the hockey community and the hockey players and the way we are, and again, you probably just even, you've chased him in a corner and hit him. You don't know him, but you know him and you respect him. Does that make sense? Like, you can not talk to someone for years, right? But the minute you do, like we are now, there's that bond. Automatic, there's respect, there's a lot there. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot going on, and I think
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing with ice hockey players when they retire.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
and that's the purpose of this. That is the purpose of
yeah,
repurpose. Is that I'm going to talk to you for the next 60 odd minutes. We're going to
yeah,
go through the first period is going to be you talking about how you fell in love in the game. The second period is going to be about your pro hockey career in the UK, but we can also maybe interweave some of your Rax the Destroyer story there, because that's a big part of your story, and one that we are, again, our paths cross. And then the third period, we're going to be talking about life after hockey. And I'm
yeah.
sure we're going to have an overtime period, knowing you and me, Smurf. So, let's get to it. Let's get to the first period, and all of the listeners are going to want to know how Marc Twaite got involved in hockey and how you fell in love with the game. I'm going to set my clock for 20 minutes. By the way, it's running time, so it's okay.
Okay, buddy. Yeah, yeah, all good.
All right,
Well,
yeah, go for it.
going back to the early 80s, when the Nottingham Panthers, Charlie Walker, um, he had money, but he didn't have money for housing. And so my parents billeted out 2 players, and the 2 players are very well known in British ice hockey: Frankie Killen and Kenny McKee. 2 Glaswegian guys have come down from. I'm not actually sure where they come down from. Obviously, Frankie was from Durham. I'm not sure where Kenny McKee was at that time before. I'm not sure. But anyway, they've come down to Nottingham Panthers, and we billeted them out, my parents. We've given them a place to stay. And all of a sudden, we're invited to a game. Of course, the family, Frankie and Kenny, got us tickets. And then we was hooked. The family was hooked from the first game. And the first game was against Streatham at home, where you've got your Gary Bryan and your Clunan and these guys, kind of legends of the sport back then and still are today. Um, and then Kenny McKee was dating a figure skater. I forget her name now. Oh, what was her name? She was a Great Britain figure skater. And I get invited to go skating with this figure skater. So I'm being taught my edges, my stop, start, my pivots. There's no better way to learn from a figure skater that's skating for Great Britain. Sue Jackson, that's the name, Sue Jackson.
Okay. Okay.
So, um, so here we're at. I'm just starting to learn how to skate. I'm watching the Panthers as a kid. I've got a scarf, and I'm just a massive Panthers fan now. So then I'm skating general public sessions, and you're paying your £1.20 or whatever it was to skate for 4 hours. You know how it was, public skating. And the manager of the juniors, Gavin Tate, Ashley Tate's father, with Kenny McDonald, I forget his first name again, and my memory's not that good. That's concussions, Nick, as you know, short-term, long-term memory loss. But so I'm like, okay, this Gavin Tate's come up and said, to my father who was standing on the board, your son's very good. He's very quick. My father said, he's been learning his skate and he's been taught by Sue Jackson, this British figure skater. Oh, it's fantastic. He can stop, start, and he's quick. That was it. Next minute, we want him to come and play for the Pumas, the under 10s, I think I was 7 or 8 at the time. And he needs hockey pads, he needs this, he needs that. And it was, even back then, Nick, as you know, it was very expensive. And I think the whole equipment was up close to £300. And my mum and dad, bless them, they sacrificed their holiday, their family holiday. They missed that 1 year. We didn't go on holiday as the family holiday. I got hockey kit because they see that there was an opportunity here for Mark to do well in skating. My brother was skating as well. He loved it. Steph was very elegant, very slow, more of a speed skater style, where I was like, and I'd bounce off the boards and I remember the one time, you can't see, but I fell over public skating and somebody skated straight across my fingers. Okay. I'm 8-year-old. 2 of them dropped and there's blood squirting out my fingers. The stewards in the red jacket, Big Colin, as we call Big Colin, then picked me up, took me to the first aid room, stitched my fingers up, strapped them 2 together because they was clearly broke, sent me to the hospital. This was learning, So from the early days of just public skating, I was getting these injuries, I fell over and cracked my chin, 7 stitches. I was a kid, but I learned to bounce back. I learned that blood's blood. Don't let it scare you. Don't let it frighten you. And you can be mended. The NHS are brilliant for that. And next minute, I've got this kit, £300 equipment, secondhand. This was as well. I got new skates, new sticks, but everything else was secondhand. And it was Ashfield Islanders. Ashfield Islanders had a little Sutton Sting, I think they're called now, but it was in Ashfield, a little small puddle like the Isle of Wight. It was a small rink, and they was blue, white, and red, I believe. So I've got second-hand kit, blue and white. Okay, blue helmet, blue and white shirt, blue shorts, blue white socks. And Nottingham was black, white, and gold. So all the kids are in black, white, and gold, apart from Smurf. So I'm training with the under 10s, and we was very luckily coached by NHL legend Fred Pellini. Also Jimmy Keys, Alex Dampier, and Terry Kurtenbach. So we was so lucky as kids to be coached by the very best. It's as simple as that. And this is what I feel that the kids, nothing against the coaching now, but they don't have what we had, So all of a sudden, my first game comes up. I'm good enough to be on the bench, blah, 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 blah. It's an away game to Streatham, and it's under 10. So we're playing against the Streatham Braves, Graham Collins, Christian Lovell, Smithy, all them boys. John Nocta was in goal, all them boys, like proper, again, back in the day, Streatham's junior system was the very best. Streatham, Durham, Nottingham, Fife, and then you had Peterborough and Solihull and Slough and a lot of others. But I would say the 4 majors was like I've just mentioned. And so we're going to Streatham, and the bar, I remember going in warm-up, and the fans was the fans and the parents were sat in the bar above the rink overlooking, if you remember, the old Streatham barn. And I get 1 shift in the 3rd period. They throw me out there, and the puck's in front of me, and I think it was Christian Lovell that was carrying the puck. Brilliant little player. And I just lasso my stick like a harpoon, like just throw my stick at the puck. Like I want the puck, but I couldn't get it. So I just do that. I get a 2 minute minor for throwing my stick, and I'll never forget it. So I'm like, what have I done wrong? Like everyone's laughing in the crowd, like, what have I done wrong? What's going on? Like, you can't throw your stick, Smurf. Like, okay. But anyway, that was my first away game. I never forget
Yeah.
it. But
How old
it
were
was
you
Fred.
then? How old were you then?
I'll probably be nine,
9.
8 or 9
Yeah.
in under tens.
Yeah.
Okay, so um, ironically, going back to Fred Polini, whose two sons have done fantastic in the sport, by the way, and Freddie's career, it's well documented, his scoring attributes at Toronto and etc. etc. Um, so Freddie turned around and called me Smurf because back then Smurfs was massively popular in cartoons on the TV and then somebody said, yeah, Strumpf, which is like Smurf in German. I'm like, because next minute, I've got stickers all over my helmet. My gran is stitching a little badge of Smurf on my shorts. And I was the Smurf of Nottingham, like in blue, white, everyone was black, white, and gold. Um, and I played with a blue helmet for about 3 or 4 seasons,
Mm.
with a cage. And even away tournaments, which we had in Baden Baden, Germany, Rosenheim, we had international tournaments as juniors, all over Europe. I remember that at Christmas. It was always, a 24-hour bus ride. And even on them tournaments away, the blue helmet stood out, and the Smurf stuck ever since. So thanks to Fred
Smart.
Fellini for that.
That felt. Do you know what? Why did everyone ever call you Smurf? Everyone knows you as Smurf, and now we know the story of
Yeah.
why you are called Smurf, and that's an awesome story, dude. And I'm just trying to think about, like, you're 9 years old and you're doing away trips to Streatham. That's a
Yep.
lot, isn't it? So even then, you're starting to figure out, like, the love of the game and what it's like to be on a coach and a team. You got exposed to it really, really young. And
Yep.
I'm trying to think back now to that ice stadium too in Nottingham. I mean, that was a
Oh,
really special place. We were going in there even with Sky Sports, and it was just cramped, and everyone was on top of you, and it was a pretty. If you were on the opposing team, it was a pretty intimidating place to be. I remember even
hostile.
when I. Yeah, and even when I was playing for the Isle of Wight there, we weren't even playing against the Panthers. It was against the second team there. It was a
Yeah.
hostile
Trojans.
place.
That'd be the Trojans. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was that place like for you to learn how to skate? Because I remember, like everyone always sees nowadays the arenas and the newer places with nice plexiglass and nice boards, whereas like the stadium was like wood, mesh. It had this atmosphere in it. So, what are your earliest memories of the ice stadium?
The ice stadium was a special place for everybody that was there. It was a big family. Everybody knew everybody. Parents was looking after different parents' kids and stuff. It was such a close bond, and friendships was made for life. And we're still keeping in touch with a lot of people. Um, the old Nottingham ice rink with it, the steps going up and all the feral pigeons at the front and the bird muck and all that, and going through the rubber matting that was always wet and damp, and that smell, just that fusty damp smell, and then you walk round that corridor, and it was just a mile and a half to get right round to the dressing room, and the dressing rooms was stinky and moldy and stuff like that. There was no kind of, if there was a little window open, it'll be like that, and it'll be a wire mesh window, and so no one could break in. It was so, but that was great. We loved it. It's just what we had to deal with. That's what it was, and I'm sure. Your Whitley Bay, your Durham, and all these rinks, they're character rinks. They held character people, and they're spoilt now. These guys are spoilt now. They
Yeah,
don't understand.
they
But if we had a shower, it'll be like one little hose coming out the ceiling, and you queued up for the shower. You queued up. There's 15, 20 guys, and you queue up for the shower. Some guys would be stripped off, like, and straight in first. But then if you was late, you was late, late.
yeah,
Some
and
guys didn't even shower. They just went straight home and showered when they got home. So, but that had so much character. The boards was low, if you remember, and when you got hit on the boards, it was always the ribs, the lower ribs. So if you went in with your shoulder down, your elbow tucked in, it was okay. If you got caught with your elbow up and it went straight on your rib cage, cool, you knew about it, you know. The mesh,
Smurf,
and
you,
we all wore cages back then as kids, and
yeah, yeah,
the mesh used to get the screws, and it used to, you know, you get caught up in the mesh in the corner, and
yeah.
brilliant. But
You were always an in your face hockey player, and I'm just trying to think about you now, like stepping on the ice for that first time in Streatham and actually harpooning your stick because you just were like, I can't get the puck, I'm going to throw my stick. There's that innocence, but also that drive to want to get the puck. And you
yeah,
were known as a guy, as a grinder, as a guy who would just get into anybody's face, and your legs never stopped.
yeah.
At what age did that characteristic really start to come out from you? I see it like almost right from the start. But when were you known as that? Like, at what age were you known as the guy who's going to go on the ice and give it 100%?
Um, yeah, I think that's inside you, Nick, isn't it? I mean, there's coaching and there's managing and this, that, and the other, and there's teammates, there's captains, there's leaders. You know, you're watching your idol, your favorite player for the Panthers now, his style, you know, a Jimmy Keys style, you know, in your face, tenacity, don't give up, never quit. Um, but I think I've got to say it was like your road trips. You know, going to Durham, going to Sunderland, going to Billingham, going to Whitley Bay, going to Peterborough, Solihull, hostile rinks like Nottingham. They probably hated coming to Nottingham, but we hated going there. And it was playing against a lot of them character players on a 4 hour bus trip. You know, the age of 12, I think my first fight was 14 as a kid, you know, and you had to grow up quickly, you know, you was boy to man overnight, you know, from the age of 14 to 16, I was in the Panthers at 15. Um, but it was,
What does
I
that
would
what does
probably,
that
I would,
what does the phrase boys to man mean to you? I'm interested in that.
oh, you have to grow up quickly. Like it's a big, like within one season, you've gone from boy to man, literally, because you've, um, testosterone starts to, you know, this kind of thing in a man, and like you've probably had your first fight, you've probably had sex for the first time, you probably had your first beer, there's a lot of things that happened within that first kind of, like back then. It's probably different now, but 14 to 16 was them 2 years was crucial for a lot of things. And it was, you sank or you swam, Nick. There's guys that I know that just couldn't handle it and drifted away from the sport right there and then. And then there was guys that thrived on it. And I think I thrived on it. And it's what
Mm,
led me to, you know, okay, I was lucky with the coaching but it's in there, Nick. It's in there, as
mm.
you know, it's got to be inside you, mate, to come out of you. Um, and I probably the first time, you probably remember this, when you take your cage off. You back then we signed a waiver for insurance, and the old Heineken League days, there was I think it was 17 to 19, you signed a an insurance document to say, I'm okay to take my cage off, but now my face is vulnerable to pucks, sticks, elbows, punches, everything else. And it was a certain age where you was allowed to, okay, quick sign, I want to get this cage off. Because nobody liked to pay with it. Some of the visor, the high techs, they was always misting up, and but the minute that cage come off, that changed again, because when you're going into them corners 110 mile an hour and you clock an elbow or a stick, or, you know, I mean, my face, 38 stitches in my face, five false teeth, broken jaw twice, broken nose. Um, there you go. That's, you know, you lead with your face. And,
Well, you do. Smart people don't.
you know, but I did. And
But
hey,
that is the thing, though, Smurf. You just say it's
face the
something that's
radio now,
inside.
Nick.
It's something that is inside because I'm very interested because I've got three stepsons. I'm very interested in motivation. And I know
Yeah,
it's a different
yeah,
age. I know there's different challenges, but you are again always a guy who's going to get on the ice and give 100% every single shift. And I can
yeah,
remember you. You know, you like in the higher leagues, like sitting on a third line or a fourth line, ready to go out and just give it your all. Right, Super League
yeah,
days,
yeah,
and you would just show up and just give it your all, and you were like a pit bull, ready to go off. And that was when you were pro. So we'll get into that in the second period. But I suppose it is that thing of like, in kids nowadays, because I know there's a lot of different kind of nurturing techniques and how kids get to where they get to. But I can't, I'm just so interested in that fire in the belly, you know, because
Right.
sometimes I would get it, sometimes I wouldn't, you know.
I would say as a kid, whether you're on the playground, whether you're on a little push bike, on a skateboard, on an ice rink, okay, you're going to get an injury or two. You're going to fall over. Everyone's broken arm, broken leg playing football as a kid, or they've gone and played ice hockey. Like I said, I had cuts and I had my finger skate. Once that fear leaves you, that's it. There's no fear. And I think if you've got that fear at a young age where an injury is scary or a bit of blood on you scares you. Know, some guys, as some kids, should I say, young boys, it turns them the other way. Where I was like, oh, you know, that's it now. I can, I can do anything. No fear.
Mm,
And I think that again, that comes from a very, very early age. If there's if there's kids that's not played sports at school, that's been very much into intelligent stuff, into books, maths and stuff like that, then they probably haven't broke a bone. They probably haven't seen a bit of blood on their body. So they're probably not used to they're probably a bit, they suffer with fear.
hmm.
Very, very young age, where
Yeah,
a young kid that's been on a playground and he's fell over and he's broke his wrist, poor little soul, but he's had his arm in plaster. Now he's got no fear. He knows what
mm,
pain is. He knows he's going to
yeah,
be fixed and mended in 6 weeks. I'm okay. I can go back on,
mm,
So again, that comes from the very, very early days of being
yeah.
fearless.
And I think there's almost a thing where we had a rites of passage, because that's why I really wanted to kind of focus on that idea of boy to man. We had this rites of passage in hockey where there's the age of innocence where we're playing and it's fun. It's just fun getting on the ice, and then all of a sudden it just switches to this competitive nature that starts to kind of just dwell in our stomachs.
Yeah,
And I do remember my first fight, and I think I was 14 or 15 years old, and it was in Saskatchewan. A lot of tough kids, but we weren't. But no one was fighting yet. And I just remember I had a bad temper anyway. Something in me just snapped. I grabbed a hold of their most talented guy, and I just wailed on him. And I remember him turtling, and I was almost jumping up. Like this is not a fight, folks. I think it was. I don't know why I did it. I wanted to hurt him so bad that I was
yeah,
jumping up and hitting him on the back. You know, I got kicked out of the game. I had, people coming up to me going, like something happened to you. You snapped. Why? What's going on? And I ended up. It was some internal things that I needed to work out. My dad took me to boxing so it could get out this frustration and anger in me. But
yeah,
ever since that moment, this fear did leave me, and I do remember feeling like I could walk a little bit taller. You know, it was like almost a
yeah,
sense of like this. And folks, this was in the mid '80s. This is a long time ago. I'm not trying to say that this is what kids need to go to, and I think that in me there needed to be some nurturing that wasn't getting nurtured.
yeah.
But I'll never forget that I was given that ability to have this rite of passage. And I do feel it's something that, when do you remember? I suppose, was it your first fight? Was it throwing your stick at that puck? What was it in you? I don't know, 9, you were too young. But when is it that you actually went, oh, do you know what? I'm playing this game it's been fun. Now there's this drive, this fire in me to win, to fight if I need to put my face in anyone's elbow or stick if I have to. And that is where your character, where Smurf was born, I suppose, as a hockey player.
Yeah, definitely. Um, it- Again, what was the pinpoint trigger to switching you to from a nice school kid to seeing him on the ice, maybe doing something a bit naughty, and the parents going, "Oh, don't like that, Smurf." Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when and what triggered it. I think it's got to come from inside. It could be. I mean, when you know, it's red mist, isn't it, Nick? Something triggers you. It triggers you there in your gut or in your heart. There's three things that trigger the body, and I feel that something was triggered to the point where, you know, whether it's through genes, through your parents, whether it's through something happened um, whilst I was a young boy that made you, like boy to man, what we're going back on. Um, I don't know exactly what it was, Nick, if I'm honest. I really don't. But I think when you're in a team, the biggest thing is you don't want to let your teammates down. And I think you're willing to do anything to let your teammates down. To stop letting your teammates down, should I say? So, I think you don't. I mean, as an individual sport, I've not done, so I don't know. So I don't know what would motivate them inside as an individual to be like that, to be that aggressor, to be that winner, to be that, unstoppable person. That's got to come from within as an individual. But a team sport, you just don't want to let him down in the dressing room. And I think that's the big thing for me is I was very, I was one of the lads. I was friendly. I was approachable. I was a character. I was Jack the lad, whatever you want to say. And I feel that certain things happened during that game, and you'd put wrong to right and right to wrong, whichever way you want to say it. Yeah, I think it was a big thing about the team and teammates. You didn't want to let,
Mm-hmm.
friendships. And that's what made you. It maybe not happen to me on the ice. It maybe happened to a teammate, but I didn't like that. I've witnessed something. It's same as like bullying on a school
Yeah.
playground. There's always the bully, okay? And the kids, someone eventually, the quiet one, it's normally the quiet one, okay, that sees this bully and clocks it and watches it. And eventually he's had enough of it and he'll lose it and he'll snap. And that quiet guy all of a sudden becomes the man.
Yeah.
He becomes the one that's like, stay away from him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm saying here with the
Yeah.
bullying
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with kids on the playground and kids at school to the point where you took that into ice hockey as a junior and you
Yeah.
just didn't like to see. We all see things and you react differently.
Yeah. You were in a time in Nottingham with some great guys, great teammates. I know Ashley Tate was around and Waghorn and I'm just trying to think of the other British guys that I know there.
Matt,
Simon Hunt.
Matt Trickett,
Yeah.
Matt
Simon
Trickett.
Hunt,
I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
bless him, Gary Rippingale and Danny
Yeah.
Thompson, and there was
When did you know that you wanted to play for the senior team? We're ending the first period here. When was when was it playing in love with the game to, no, I've had enough of that.
yeah.
Boy to man, I want to be on that bench with the Panthers. When did that happen?
Right. No, nobody knows this neither. What I'm going to tell you is basically we only had an hour's ice time. On I think like everybody hockey player can say that you had 1 hour a week, or if it was 2 hours a week, okay. And then you had public skating, and I wanted to, public skating was a must. I had to be public skating as much as I could. I was I wasn't being pushed by my parents, but if they was taking me to the rink, I wanted to be on the ice. So it was one of them. But I was lucky where I had the Nottingham Tigers, Nottingham Cougars. I was playing for them. As soon as I get to the Cougars, I'm playing for the Trojans, which was a semi-professional under-21 league, and I'm training with the Panthers. So I was lucky that I had that. The guys haven't got that now, where you know, like such as Ashley Tate, we was playing for three different teams at three different age levels: junior, semi-pro, and training with the Panthers. It was massive. And it was, 1 minute you're playing with kids, the next minute you're playing with grown men,
Mm.
NHL superstars. And that was like crazy at 14, 15, 16-year old. But what people don't know is that even when junior practice was tea time-ish, it was like I was bunking off school in the afternoon. Like I remember getting a telling off like Bob Studholme, PE teacher at Hucknall, Holgate School in Nottingham, where he pulled me in the one time and said, Mark, back then he picked you up by the back of the hair on your neck and he dragged you into a quiet room, and he picked you. So you walk, I mean, they couldn't do that now, but that's how it was back then. But anyway, he said, you're missing gym, you're missing rugby, you're missing. I said, yeah, but I'm playing ice hockey. I'm bunking off school that afternoon to get to the ice rink for 4 o'clock because I cannot miss ice hockey practice. I'm missing school, I'm missing that, but I don't want to miss ice hockey. So I sacrificed that. I sacrificed schooling for ice hockey. It's as simple as that. But every opportunity I was given, Nick, to get on that ice, to be at that rink, to be around teammates, whatever it was, I was there. Simon Perkins, you know the name Perko? He lived in Hucknall, Papawick, and his dad used to drive through our village, Bessel village, to take Simon to Panthers practice, and that was twice a week, and it was 10:30 till midnight. Okay, and every 10:30 till midnight on a Tuesday and a Thursday, Simon Perkins' father would pick me up, and as a family, we'd go through, and I would sit and watch the practice, Panthers training, 14, 15-year-old. I would go around and collect the pucks. Oh, Smurf's got the
Mm.
pucks that used to hit the net and go behind. I used to collect the pucks and put them back on the ice. I used to fill the water bottles. People don't know this. So I was basically getting to bed about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, twice a week as a school kid, and still being at school at 7 in the morning. That was sacrifice.
Mm.
Okay. But then Alex Dampier recognized that he always wants to be around the boys. He wants to be part of the team. He wants to help out. And he's good enough at junior level. Let's bring him in to start training with the Panthers. And that's when Damps turned around the one time, I'll never forget it, and said, Smurf, we want you, bring your kit next week. Really? I
Wow.
was like,
Wow.
wow, this is amazing. I get to train with the Panthers, So all of a sudden, like I said, I've gone from the Tigers under 14s to playing under 15 for the Trojans semi-professional league, under 21 league, which had Stuart Parker and all them guys. And then all of a sudden, I'm training with Alex Dampier's Panthers, Nigel Rhodes, Randall Webber, John Bremner, Gavin Fraser. That was massive for me. And it was an opportunity that Damps gave me, and I grabbed it with both hands and gave it my all because I didn't want to let my parents down. I didn't want to let my teammates down. And I felt inside that I was good enough. I wasn't probably the biggest, but I was quick and I was willing to fall down and get back up. And I did all right after that, Nick.
Murph,
Yeah.
you did. And that's a great way to end the first period. We're going to go into the first intermission. I always ask guys, what was your routine during intermission breaks?
Root, take the old tape off your stick, okay? And then I was kind of loosen my laces so to get the blood circulation in your feet. Um, Um, Obviously, water. It was Lucas and Satellite was Isostar back then, not Lucas. I mean, I've got Lucasade now. I drink Lucasade now when I feel a little bit. I need them electrolytes. But back then it was Isostar, as you remember. There was a little table in the middle of the room that had like quarters of oranges, so you suck on an orange, vitamin C.
Yeah.
If there was a strip of chewing gum, Wrigley's chewing gum, you had to be there first to get the one stick of chewing gum. But like there was a lot of things what guys did, but me was loosen off my skates, take my stick, get my water inside me, grab a bit of orange, and before you know it, just listening to the seniors, listening to Paul Adey, listening to Terry Curtin, listening to Doc Durdle, and just Davy Graham. I was sat next to Davy, and Davy Graham he took me under his wing, and I'll always be for grateful with that. It was always helping and advising, but it was listening. I was willing to listen to the pros and listen to what they was having to say. And then when Damps come in the room, listen to Damps, what he had to say on the board. Um, and it's good to listen, especially off them seniors that know it, been there, done it. You've got to listen, and
You know,
that's what I did. That's what I did.
I, I'm having such a good time listening to you right now. Like I'm literally, I can't stop smiling, dude, listening to all of this. It's beautiful. And it's funny. I remember like with some of the guys that I've talked to and known, like it was at the time when some guys would even go outside for a cigarette and a coffee. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that yeah, I'm glad that those days are gone. But your first intermission or your intermission breaks are great because I think listening is key. But I also sure I can imagine when you got older, you were telling a few tales as well.
Oh God, I mean,
Yeah.
certain things what you heard, certain things what happened. Um, Going to
Yeah.
Durham and like the coach coming in, you're 3-0 down after the first period, and your away fans have travelled all that way to Durham and they've paid the ticket and this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden there's like an open gas fire. This is going into the early Blaisdell days, but there was one gas fire and it always leaked. But I remember the one time that's when we learned about Blazer and his character and his passion for the sport and for the team as a player coach back then. He'd come in and he'd kick the gas fire and he'd smash his stick off the walls and and he'd throw the water bottles and you just like you'd freeze. You'd go like, whoa, what's going on? It's like World War III is happening in the dressing room. And there's a lot of things like that happen that again that just woke you up and realize what it meant to them players. Um, and I think again, watching your coach and senior players be like this, do this, made you again. You listen, you watch, you took it on board, and down the line, you
Yeah,
did it, and the
yeah,
juniors are watching you do it, and you're just
yeah,
passing on a generation what you've learned. You're passing it on, and that's how it was, and it was the fundamentals of ice hockey, Nick.
yeah. It
As a
was.
young'un,
It
as a
was
young'un.
the bedrock, and you had some good teachers. You had some good learning. You got a good foundation for
Yeah,
you to move to the senior team. We're going to start the second period now,
yeah.
and let's talk about when you are first offered reset, drop the puck. When is Mark offered your first professional contract to play pro sports, pro ice hockey in Nottingham?
Yeah. That was a no-brainer to obviously accept it. But as a school kid, I always wanted to be a car mechanic. So I worked for Vauxhall New Crown in Bulwell, Nottingham for 2.5 years. I did my apprenticeship through MTech at a college, got my qualifications, and I was about to take my electrician's course. I think it was E17 or something back then. Many, many years ago, Nick, So I'm playing ice hockey, I'm working full-time New Crown Vauxhall, and I was balancing the two full time, both of them. I was playing football as well. As crazy as that sounds, for the council, for Hucknall Council, playing football. And it was a big decision I had to make then. So it was kind of this contract was kind of offered, and it was John Flavel. John Flavel was the manager, rest his soul, under Charlie Walker, rest his soul. But the chairman and the manager approached me and said, Mark, we want you on a contract. But the contract then, I think, was £75 a week. That was huge for me, Nick. You wouldn't believe, like, I'm 17-year-old. I'm getting, I think it was £145 a week from New Crown, Vauxhall. I'm getting £75 a week from the Panthers. Back then, as a
Wow.
17-year-old kid, that's a lot of money, mate. Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, designer Ralph Lauren t-shirts, and it was all the Ralphie stuff back then, and the Paul Smith brands, and so. But John Flavel,
Patrick
it was
Cox shoes.
yeah, mate. It was all
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
could do it then. I'm sure a lot of players. I echo this with a lot of the players, but a win bonus would be £15 a win away or home, and then there's three bonuses, and it was Wembley. If you got to the semi-final, you got to the final. If you won it, that was the only bonuses you got. If you won the league as well, sorry, if you won the league, there's three or four bonuses, and they was 50, 150, 250, £500, depending. Okay, so that was my first contract. It was basic as you like. Equipment was included, so all of a sudden my parents haven't got to pay for equipment, sticks or anything like that, which was that was worth a lot of money because my mum and dad sacrificed so much for me. And I'm forever grateful. Like all parents, they sacrifice a lot. They don't realize what it costs for ice time, for equipment, to travel away. It's a lot of money, and like all sports, but ice hockey even more so, I guess, now. But even back then, it was expensive, Nick, for parents. But yeah, that was my first contract, £75 a week. And it's funny. I've got since I moved, I carried a lot of boxes with me, and I've got boxes of programs and contracts and my Ice Warriors contract. I've got so many different contracts, Super League contracts, my Sheffield Saga. I've got all that. I've got the original Summit meeting, 2007 meeting by the government in black and white. Probably the only guy in the country that's got that. So,
Mm,
yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, that was my first pro contract, £75 a week. Never forget it, and forever grateful for it. It was
And
good
then
money
what
back
was it
then.
like like Nottingham have always been known as like a mecca of hockey. The Nottingham Panthers, if
Yeah,
anyone's going to talk about British ice hockey, they are one of the first teams that people mention.
yeah,
It's been central too, and certainly with the ice arena the way it is now, the center of excellence and the figure skating, like Nottingham is this hub of ice hockey. And I mean, the Panthers, when I first moved here in 1989, everyone talked, it was really the Nottingham Panthers because I lived in Doncaster. And
yeah,
Sheffield only had that wee little small team. And, it
yeah.
was before the Steelers time. So what was it like, first sitting on that bench, with those guys, with the guys that you've mentioned in that arena where, they're calling out your name as a first team player?
Yeah. firstly, the Nottingham Ice Stadium had Torval and Dean. They had,
Yeah.
and then they had Stuart Horspool, Great Britain speed skater, and then they had, NHL legends like Fred Polini come, and so the Ice Stadium had a lot of celebrities, as we can say back then, because they was, and when you're rubbing shoulders and you sat in the cafe and you're having coffee as a kid and you see these people, Torval and Dean walk in, at 5 in the morning to do legendary, But that first, I think it was Hull. It was Hull at home. And we had Bidsy, Todd Bidner, legend. We had Paul Adey and Terry Kurtenbach as the imports, Damps. And I was 15-year-old, and I never got a shift, but I sat on the bench. And it was just good to sit there. There was me, Ashley Tate, Matt Trickett, Gary Rippingale, God bless him, and Danny Thompson that got called up. And we just sat there. We was called the puppy line. So it was me, Matt Trickett, and Ashley Tate as the third line puppy line. We were just kids, 15-year-old, but it was Hull at home. And we won the game. I'll never forget that. And I've got a photo somewhere where I think it's Sue Bailey, the team photographer back then, took a photo of me on the ice. First time putting the Panthers jersey on. I'll never forget it. Very, very proud moment, Nick. Very proud for my parents. And it was a stepping stone that, it was an opportunity that Damps gave me. And I like to think that I gave everything I could to not let anyone down, And yeah, that was the first time I got called up for the Panthers, Hull at home. And Hull back then had the Johnsons, the three Johnson brothers, Shuggy, Tant, and Quacks. Who else did they have? They had what's the guy that played in Whitley Bay? Hell of a sniper.
When they have the Lamberts by then too.
Lamberts, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the sniper that Whitley Bay had for many years? He was in Hull. Great player. Number 19, forget, stocky little guy,
Oh,
goatee. Oh, what was his name? Hell of a player. But I remember that, yeah. Never forget that game. Hence me, mentioning the players.
mm,
But I think Frankie Killen, believe it or not, Frankie Killen was in goal for Hull then as well. And he
yeah.
was the one that introduced me and the family to ice hockey in Nottingham. And my first game with the Panthers, Frankie Killen's in goal for them.
How did your career progress with the Panthers? I mean, you're playing with Ashley Tate, who becomes a legend and an out and out skilled goal scorer and playmaker.
Yeah,
One of the best British players that I mean, he's up there for me. He's an amazing
totally.
hockey player.
Yeah.
When did you start filling that role on a team, actually getting regular shifts and getting damps, or one of the coaches to give you a tap on the shoulder and say, "Here's what I want you to do up there, Smurf." And where you're, I know third lines are always important, please, folks. I don't. I was a third line guy. We
Yeah.
play a very, very important part, but all of a sudden you start getting, up into the second line, into the third. You start power play,
Yeah.
penalty killing and stuff, and special teams. So when was Smurf starting to fill
I would
a,
I would
a bigger
say,
role?
yeah, I would say that the confidence in Damps was when we'd probably been chosen for England GB under 16s, and we was coached by John Kerr and Alan Bean Anderson and these guys. So now we're not just getting on the ice for 30 seconds in the offensive zone to give the imports a rest, to give the first and second line a rest. We're actually going out there and we're getting a shot on goal. We're actually, we're achieving things as a line. And I think it was the confidence that Damp seeing us, because we've been called up for the England and Great Britain teams, that we was good enough to give us that opportunity to start giving us more ice time. And we was growing as men, from boy to man. We was growing. We was getting stronger. We was in the gym. So again, Damps could see that, where he was like, yeah, I'm going to put the kids out against their top line. It's in their zone. Okay. If they, and if we got scored on, we learn. That's the only way to learn, Nick, is to be scored on and to be hitting the corner hard and to be come off like you can't breathe. One of the big guys has hit you. You've got to learn. You've got to bounce back, and but I think Damps, it was like the end of the Damps tenure at Nottingham, stroke the beginning of Blazer. That was a big era where
Mm.
I started to play a lot. Hence playing with Nigel Rhodes, Randall Webber, who were senior British players back then. Obviously, we had Wags. Wags come from Streatham back then. So yeah, it was. I would probably say the age of 17 and I scored my first goal in Edinburgh, and I believe it was against Martin Mackay in Edinburgh. And again, you don't forget your first goal. And I think the first goal I scored in Edinburgh, I've still got the puck at the bottom of my kit bag. Would you believe? So yeah, because back then you always got the puck, didn't you? You know, one of the players, senior players, would grab it out of the net and hand it to you on the bench. And yeah, but it was that time that I started to get stronger as a person, stronger mentally and physically. Accept that probably Damps had put you out here and you'd been hit 2 or 3 times, but you got back up and you went again. And he probably thought, yeah, I'm going to keep playing him. He's good enough. He's strong enough. I wasn't the biggest, but there was a lot of smaller guys back then that was hell of a players, like Hunty and Kevin King at Peterborough, little guys. But I tell you what, they could play. They was feisty. They would never back down. And I was probably starting to mold into that type of player through Damps into Blazer. So yeah.
And then yeah, I'm interested to know that time because like those two coaches, well, those two people, Alex Dampier and Mike Blaisdell, at that time they were the top two. So you've got this guidance of Alex Dampier. Then he I think he moved on to Sheffield, didn't he then?
Yes,
and then
did, yeah.
Mike Blaisdell comes in, and this is around Super League time as well.
Come from Durham, Blazer come from Durham.
Yeah. Is this around the early Super League? Yeah. So what was that like then when you started to play a more dynamic role?
I think Blazer come.
We're getting a little funny.
Yeah, this was a big turning point.
We're good now.
Are you all right?
Go for it.
You got me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big turning point as well, Nick. But not just in me personally, but the sport. The sport, it was a big turning point, and there was only 3. And then we went from the 3 to the 1 dual national, and we had such as Chuck Taylor come in as a dual national. So all of a sudden, then you've got 4 quality imports on every team. Every team had top British players, the Coopers, the Johnsons, Tony Hand, and everyone was stacked. So all of a sudden, the sports took a massive step. Not just individual players. It wasn't just me. It was what I was doing. It's what everyone else was doing. And you had to be competitive. You had to never back down, and you had to be in the gym to compete. And there was, if you was given an opportunity, under the later part of the Damps days, early part of the Blazer days, again, you had to give 110% and you didn't want to let them down, to the point where I wasn't the one. My early days, my first year of Panthers under Blazer, I think I was on a line with Randall Webber and Neil Morgan, and I chipped in with the odd goal, but my job was up and down my lane, chip in, chip out, and I was a very defensive winger. That there was always not just 2, but there was Smurf getting back because I was quick, so I was always quick to get back and help out, pick up the trailer, and that was my role. And I think Blazer then recognised that Smurf can do a job, and so if you had Ashley Tate on the first line with Paul Ady and Dan Dorey and all that kind of, I was with Morgie and Randall Webber on the second line, so to speak, which was huge for me. So I've gone from third to second line within a season as well. You're playing against some top, every road trip, every game was a battle. It was high plus or minus, no matter what, So you learn that as well. But I think the one time pre-Super League days was when was coming. Then I'm sitting more than playing. I'm watching, and these Canadians was coming in. I think we went to the early part of the Super League was 6, 7 imports, I think, if I remember right. So we had Greg Hadden, Hody, these kind of players come in, Darrell Olsen, and great players from the East Coast and the International Ice Hockey League, the American League, great players. But I was small. I was sat watching, But so when I got an opportunity, I had to show Blazer what I was worth. And I remember the first shift I got against Ayr Scottish Eagles at home. The puck was rimmed into the corner and it got stuck under the boards where the Zamboni went out, the old boards in the old Nottingham ice rink. And Angelo Cantonero, their captain, tough guy from the American and International Ice Hockey League. He's trying to chip the puck out, and he's trying to dig the puck out the board. I've just gone and run this guy, and then I've smashed it. I remember Steve Carpenter telling me, he says, Smurf, don't ever give up. Don't ever let up. Just put every 185 pounds behind this, and just put your body straight through him, whoever it is. He said, don't back down. And I did this one shit. Because I want Blazer to see, I wanted to be, back on that second line, not third line watching. So I've hit this in Angelo Cantanero, and it was like I've skated away. I couldn't see he's got back up behind me, and it was like a pantomime. It's like, oh, Smurf, he's behind you, and I could hear this. Like I knew he's coming out to me. I turned around, center ice, gone whack. Closed my eye first punch. I scrapped. We wrestled. We go down. I'm only a young kid still. We go in the penalty box on the little orange chairs back then. I'll never forget it. Just mesh. And the kids used to come up and tap you on the shirt. And I remember turning around. I got offered a midget gem. These kids used to offer you sweets back then. Just you was their idol. You was their. So I turned around. I'd just been in a fight with Angelo Cantanero. It was my first proper professional fight for the Panthers. I can say that. I've turned around, my eyes closed, and this kid started crying because I looked like a. He started crying and run off to his mum because I didn't look right, I've got an ice pack on my eye. But that was a turning point for me, like Blazer. I'll go through a brick wall for you. I'll take that punch. I'll sacrifice the captain. He's in the penalty box. Now you can go put your imports on. And, so I think a lot of British guys, I echo this with Anthony Payne, was that tasker. There was a lot of players, Johnny Cotton, a lot of players that, like me, was that kind of style, that role. Skillful, we could chip in, but we had to play that role as well,
I was a big fan of the Ice Hockey Super League because I got to cover it on Sky Sports. I got to see guys like Angelo Cantanero and some amazing hockey players come over here. But I was also around playing, in that before that, and the time of two or three imports and young British guys like yourself, just like you're just playing at that level, getting a lot of ice time, having a lot of fun, being pro hockey players. Yeah. And then things did change when the Ice Hockey Super League came in, and it was a Brit hockey player killer. There's a lot of good British ice hockey players who just gave up. And
dwindled.
And
they did.
So in a way, like it is, people talk about it as being the best ever hockey that was being played here, but you were getting just as many bums on seats when there was two or three imports, as in 6 and 7, and then all of a sudden a whole team of imports, and you had one or two British guys playing, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like again, as a fan of the Ice Hockey Super League, whether or not that killed so many guys' careers and whether it was worth it.
Wasn't worth it. Of course it wasn't. And it did. Yeah, they dwindled out the sport. It was so sad to see. Lots of talent in Nottingham just disappeared. And you're like, wow, real talented players. And I'm sure it happened at all rinks, the old barns across the country. Again, back then it was those that had to be committed. It was now from fun, which it was. The early Heineken days was fun. And then it went into semi-professional, and then it went into full-on professional. The ice, Panthers then went full professional. Everybody was, I had to quit my job as a mechanic. All of a sudden, I'm getting paid a lot better money. I'm in the gym every day with Paul Adey. I'm meeting Paul for a coffee. Then we go for a gym. And Jimmy and Jeff at work at Formula One, I had a routine. I was putting on muscle. And it all changed again, Nick, for me as a person, but for the sport as a whole, it was a lot more professional, mate. A lot more professional. Team tracksuits and sponsorship and team functions and the bus trips and staying at hotels before a game. We didn't have that back in the day. It was, the bus ride was straight to the rink, bus legs straight on the ice. Now it was like we're staying at hotels. We was having a proper meal, pasta dinners. It would come totally professional, Nick, and you had to quit everything and just focus on ice hockey, focus on the badge, Nottingham Panthers, and I did that, and I gave it everything, and I think there's a lot of players that had very good jobs, paid jobs, as professionals, whether it was whether it was a Sparky or an office job, and they took that. They carried on with that. They thought, I'm not going to sacrifice my weekends away up the northeast for
Mm.
£150, £200 a week when I'm getting £400 a week at this job. So they took
Yeah.
that decision. It was professional or semi-professional, have fun in the lower leagues and work full time. I took the
Mm.
decision full time ice hockey, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you did too, and you had a great career.
thank
But
you,
this
thank
the
you.
sec the second
You did
period,
too, buddy. You did too. You
uh,
did too.
I did okay out of it, and I
You did
loved
well,
my
mate.
time
You're a good player.
playing hockey. My time had to come to an end. I also, had the time in TV. You had the time as Rax the Destroyer on Ice Warriors. What was that like for you?
That was life changing, I've got to say. I remember you on Sky, Nick, and you did a tremendous job, by the way. And you promoted, the sport for what it is as a professional. I think you was the first person beyond like your Bob Ballard and who else am I thinking of now? There's a few
Bob
others, but I think
Coral. Yeah.
Bob Carroll. But I think you was the first person to come on Sky and really take the sport to a next level. So you need to take a lot of credit for that, and I mean that. You did a proper job. Um, the Ice Warriors was, bless him, he's no longer with us, but he was the manager of the Nottingham Ice Stadium, Vernon Neal, very good friend of mine, very good friend with the family. And Vernon, he said, I was fishing with Unty at the time, and we was fishing in Epperstone, and we'd been drinking, we'd had a barbecue, and Vern said, there's this group coming from London that are doing something like the Gladiators on ice. He said, Smurf, get yourself down here, put your name forward. You're fast, like you could do that. You could be one of these gladiators. So I'm like, I've not even took it seriously, Nick. I'll be honest with you. But Vern, bless his soul, he put my name forward to Roy Scammell, and Roy Scammell was an actor in, I think it was Rollerball and some of the Bond movies. And then you had Nigel Lithgow, ITV legend, as you know, Nigel Lithgow. I think he's in Hollywood now. Bless him, Nigel. But these guys was in bar three, and I've come into the rink. I'm hungover. I've been fishing all night. I've not slept. But it was like, right, Smurf, put your kit on. We need you to do 5 laps. Okay, I do 5 laps in I don't know how many, 48 seconds or something. They had the cones on the spots, the face-off spots. So it was a quick 5 laps, not the full rink, by the way, Nick. It was 48 seconds, and they was blown away. It was like, wow, you're the quickest we've ever seen. And then it was like Bulldog. Remember Bulldog used to play as kids?
Hmm.
Start off at the back of the blue line. There was 3 or 4 in the middle, and you had to weave through them and dodge them and to get to the far end. And I was the last one to get caught at Bulldog. So then they asked me to jump over a ramp and slide under a tunnel, and I did all that. Next minute, I'm pulled to one side. Roy Scammell, Nigel Lithgow, Mark, we want you in the bar. Okay, so I've gone into bar three, and I sat down in front of these. I had no idea. I was like, am I going to be chosen for the Nottingham team? This is what I'm thinking.
Mm.
So, Nigel Lithgow's turned around and said, Mark, you're Rax the Destroyer. And they held up this photo of like the silver surfer, the
Yeah.
silver Rax the Destroyer. And I'm like, what? This is like, I couldn't take this in, Nick. Like, this is you. This is your costume. We want you. You're our first Ice Warrior. You're the chosen one.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
wow. I said, guys, coming from these two guys as well, like Roy and
Yeah.
Nigel, legends back in the day on TV and in the movies. Uh, I was like, guys, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wear that. Like, let's go. Like, I was buzzing. It was,
The TV world is definitely a lot different than the hockey world, isn't it?
oh, God, it's to the point where, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when I did
It's
Ice
fun.
Hockey, I
Yeah.
loved it. I love the TV, and I'm sure everybody, everyone loves to be on camera, Nick. You've been on camera for many, many years, and I think you've either got it or you haven't, and you've got to get that. Some people get stage fright. Some people are fearless on TV, and they're just a natural. You're a natural, and but when I come off the ice, it was like I had 2 girls with like the little battery powered fans, and they'd come and
Mm.
like put them in my face like to cool me down. I'm like, what are you doing? Get away! Like, yeah, but your makeup's
Yeah.
running. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like what? So it was a different world, the
Yeah.
TV world. Yeah,
Yeah.
giving me a towel, a little
Yeah.
fold up towel, I like to wipe my brow, and oh mate,
Yeah.
it was very.
If
Yeah.
you were to say, like, we're ending your because basically you ended your hockey career in Sheffield, right? And it
Yeah.
was a very tumultuous time. I want to
Yeah.
save that for the third period because I think it really goes
Okay.
into in quickly. So let's just highlight Mark's. Why am I saying you're as third person? I don't get it. Let's let's give us the highlights of your pro career, Mark. What did you enjoy the most? Was it the
Oh,
fans? Was it the
it,
team? Was it the
yeah. It was the fans was massive. I think every British player back then, and even the imports back then, was grateful that the fans paid wages. It's as simple as that. And I was always indebted to the fans, feeling like every one of them in front of me when I'm sat on the bench is paying 10, 12 pounds to watch me play, and that goes towards paying wages. So always grateful for the fans. And if I could have done anything on a team function to be there with the fans, quiz night or whatever it may be, I was there. That was a huge part of ice hockey back then, was the community. It really was. It was a massive part of it. And friendships for life, Nick. But the just being with the boys on the road trips and away games and the nights out and going to Hooters and it was never ending. There was always something to be doing. There was always something that you was told to go. You've got to wear your Panthers tracksuit. You've got to go there. There's a new hotel. You've got to go cut the ribbon. I remember getting asked to open the first sports shop in Nottingham. Again, honoured with Paul Adey and Chris Bart Williams, bless him, passed away last year. I know, Bartman for Forest and Steve Chettle. So there was that side of it. I felt like a little bit of a mini celebrity in Nottingham back then because it was Panthers, ice hockey, and it was like Rax the Destroyer. And then I got asked to do Bachelor of the Year. Um, and so I've gone into Heaven's nightclub to be chosen as Bachelor of the Year. There's 50 eligible bachelors, and I come 12th out of 50. Again, that was another string to my bow. And a lot of little things I got asked to do. Remember the Red Bull Challenge down the slope? Um, I got asked to do the Red Bull Challenge, and that was 10 grand prize money. But I did my shoulder, so I couldn't go. But actual Red Bull, I got the letter from Red Bull saying, Mark, we want you because you're the quickest in the country. We've seen you
Mhm.
on Ice Warriors. We want you as to represent Great Britain and the Red Bull Challenge in Austria. And I was like, that was another thing. I didn't get to do it, Nick, but I was proud to be asked. I was very, very much proud to be asked. And it was Lynn Bobick. Remember Brent Bobick? And Bobber was so fast.
Yeah.
um, but Lynn Bobick was working for Red Bull, and Lynn put my name forward as well. So thank you, Lynn, for that. There's a lot of, you know, I did a lot of things. There's probably things I can't remember, Nick, that I've not mentioned. And fans will go, Smurf, can you remember this? I'm like, no, but you did this. Okay, really great. I won this is coming back to me. The Hooters Golf Day. I won that the one year, the Hooters Golf Day. And that was a tremendous time. Again, Mark James, who's got the boot room now at the City Ground. Mark James owned Hooters, and there was a big bond with Hooters and the Panthers. And there was a big bond with the hotel, Westminster Hotel, and Alan Morris, big sponsor. So he was always invited to nights out and days out, and it was fantastic to be a
Yeah.
Panther back in the early days. And Nottingham's always going to have a close, in my heart, mate. Like you, I'm sure, like when you was in London and when you was in Guildford, Isle of Wight, and you never lose you, does it? Never leaves you.
No.
Um,
No.
but yeah, I had some fun in Nottingham, mate. Yeah.
Your career, you've just wrapped up as being something that was beyond just the ice. You are a man who
Well,
really
yeah.
enjoyed being a hockey player. You enjoyed the life that ice hockey gave you. You
Yeah.
also had stints in I believe Milton Keynes and Coventry and Cardiff, and then your career ended in Sheffield. Now,
Yeah.
let's just say, Mark, you had an amazing few years in British ice hockey. We're going to end your second period with that,
Yeah.
and I'm going to jump straight into the third period because you ended your career in Sheffield. Let's start the clock. Because of an injury, and this is something that you are. Why is it not starting? Hold on. Let's just don't worry about it. This is something you've been an advocate about trauma, shoulder injuries, ending your career. Give us your words. What happened in Sheffield with the injury? and you ending your career as a pro hockey player, and how you felt about that.
I've obviously, once I left Nottingham, I'll be honest with you, it was, I'm going to go and have fun, and I dropped down 2 leagues to play in Milton Keynes and be a leader, and then I, got Tomo wanted me to be a thorn in his side instead of against him. So all of a sudden, I'm playing for Tomo in Coventry, Great Britain coach, and I wanted to play for Great Britain. That was the pinnacle of my career, Nick. I felt that I'd done everything within the Super League and with Panthers that I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve in Milton Keynes to a point. The fans was tremendous there for me. And then it was like I was top goal scorer the one year and grateful because that was above Paddy Scott. So I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve in the sport. Individual, I was ticking boxes as I was going, and I just wanted to have fun. And it was when I went to Tomo, I got to basically get to show Tomo what I could do in Coventry. So I was like, I've got an opportunity to play for Great Britain, to be called up. And that was the ultimate. That was going to be the pinnacle of my career, Nick. And I actually did that. I got to do that. Very grateful. And in amongst a pool of massive talent, like 70, 80 top British players, you could reel them off. Every team had a stack of quality British players. So I was humbled to be called up, one of 23, and I score a goal in Nottingham against Romania. And that was the pinnacle of my career. That was it right there. So then I've gone from Coventry to Cardiff. And Cardiff was a gong show, like, leading up to going to Sheffield, by the way, Cardiff was a gong show where Bob Phillips, he owed Ivan Matulik, Steve Thornton, Steve Moria, Doug McEwen, he owed them racks of money from a previous contract, whatever it was now. So there was 600 fans outside, 20 fans inside. So I'm like, oh, I love the Cardiff Devils. They've got a history like the Panthers, like, Coventry and stuff. But what am I doing here? We was losing every game. And Blazer was in touch and he was in Sheffield. And I said to Mark Hazelhurst back then, during a meeting, we had a meeting. And Bob Phillips was, I'm selling the Cardiff Devils for a penny to this guy, Brian Candy. And I said to Jason Stone, let's offer 2p and buy the Devils, being sarcastic, So I've left the Cardiff Devils. I said, Hayes, I'm out of here, mate. This is just going from bad to worse. These guys, these classy players I've always respected and played against, Ivan Matulik and that, they're owed money. I'm gone. Dougie McEwen was at Peterborough. And Dougie McEwen said, Smurf, get yourself to Peterborough. I'll pay you this. I said, great, Dougie, I'm there. Respect you, mate. I'm in Peterborough. So I play a game for Peterborough against Guildford. We won the game. Grateful. Great meeting all the boys in Peterborough. And then I was called up by Blazer. And Blazer said, Smurf, we've got 10 grand. I said, right. He said, we've got so many guys injured. We've got a budget of 10 grand. One or two guys are coming back. Peter Laboutelier or whatever, NHL heavyweight. Paul Cruz, the captain, Brad Lauer, Rick Brabant. I knew from Nottingham. I knew Jeff Sebastian from Nottingham. No brainer, Mike, I'm there. Send me okay, we're going to fax you through a form. It was all fax then, as you know, Nick, old school. So I'm going to fax you through this form. I want you to sign it. That's your registration for the Super League. Okay. So under the registration of the Super League, there's an insurance policy under that registration because that's from the International Ice Hockey Federation. It's as simple as that. The governing body of the Super League was the International Ice Hockey Federation. They handed out the ITC cards and the work permits and the registration form to be legal and insured when you step foot on the ice, period. So I've signed this, thing here. So all of a sudden I've signed the contract, and it was the minimum wage back then for the Super League was £400 a week. So I signed for £400 a week. It worked out. It was about £8,000 I was going to get from then to the end of the season. Mike, I'm there. We'll pick you. I'm in Nottingham now, living in my house that I had in Hucknall back then. And I've been in my own house for 2 or 3 years. And the away team, Sheffield, are coming to take me to East Midlands Airport. So they pick me up at Nottingham, take me to the airport to go to Belfast. This is my first game away. So I'm on the bus and I walk. Mike, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Blazer, it was like old friends. Then I've obviously met Sebi and Rick Brabant's come down, and Paul Cruz has come down to shake my hands. Welcome aboard, Smurfy. Heard a lot about you. I felt at home straight away. Like, legends of the sport. Go to Belfast. We've got, I think, like 11 players, and the minimum you should have without getting a fine. The club got a fine is 12 players, and we had 11. But I'm on a line with Brad Lauer and Rick Brabant, like two of the best ever to play the game in this country. So I was up and down my lane, my speed and everything wasn't a problem. The issue, I was bumping and grinding, chipping out, chipping in. I had a shot on goal, should have scored. Cut a long story short. I played against Belfast away. Then my next game is Nottingham away. Can you believe it? Against Damps. So I'm playing for Blazer, against Damps on the other bench, against Paul Adey and all the boys I grew up with. I'm in my home, the new rink now in Nottingham. I'm in, Nottingham. Fans are cheering for Smurf. There's a couple of, blah, 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 banners. I'll never forget it. And that was my last game in Nottingham. Played a lot of shifts. And then we had a scrimmage. 4 or 5 days off, we had a scrimmage. And the puck's in the middle of the ice. I've gone to chip it out. Scott Allison's gone to chip it in. We've both collided, 30 mile an hour. I heard a crack, felt sick, went down, got back up. I'm holding my shoulder. Blazer comes over. Smurf, you okay? I said, no, I felt something go. Gutted. I knew, instinct, Nick, when you've heard something snap. I've gone into the dressing room and Jeff Butcher there. He was there, to be fair. Jeff was the doctor at the time, and said, Smurf, yeah, we'll cut off your shirt. But you've clearly done your clavicle here. It's bad. We're going to take you to, I think it was Doncaster or Rotherham. I can't remember now. Or Sheffield, somewhere in hospital. Anyway, so I've gone there and they've done an X-ray and they said, we can't do too much, Mark, because it's just been done. Take some painkillers, this, that, and the other. And again, painkillers, pink bomb. That's when I was always doing that. When you had an injury, it was pink bomb, but even more so now. So now I'm painkiller, sat at home, arm in a sling like that, couldn't do anything, waiting for a week for my next appointment, waiting for the phone to ring from Jeff Butcher, come and have another X-ray, Mark. So waited a week. Jeff, what's happening? Yeah, come and basically push me through the NHS. So even to that point, the very beginning, I was thinking, am I not insured? Because I'm just using the NHS, which is free. I pay my national insurance, so I'm using the NHS, which I pay for anyway, at my wages. So I was expecting like a Bupa, a private care. I was expecting something a little bit different. Super League, with the players that was coming over, the lockout of the NHL, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it was week after week after week, and nothing was being done, Nick, to the point where I found out I'd snapped the end of my collarbone and my second and third rib. I'd also ripped my AC rotator cuff repair. I'd ripped that. And apparently there was bone fragments, was a breakage in, there was bone fragments in the joint there. My shoulder's completely dropped, and I'm in a serious amount of pain. Now, when I've gone to, see Jeff Butcher and he said, look, we need to get you sorted, Mark. I said, well, you're the doctor, Jeff, get me sorted, So then it was to the point, it was week after week after week, nothing was happening, Nick. Absolutely. I was just ice packs and painkiller. Just left in the dark. Then it was like, okay, Joe Collins, Players Association. We're paying Joe £300 a year to represent the players. Joe, do your job. Nothing against Joe, but she turned around and said, from day one, Smurf, we're fighting a losing battle. Every time a player comes to me for help and support, which you pay into, which I totally get that, the players' union, we stick together, we get a solicitor and a barrister on your side. But I'm afraid that the team will just fold the company name. It'll start up another company name, and the contract and the registration number you sign under that company name, South Yorkshire Franchise Limited, will go under. She called it from day one. It's exactly what happened. So now I'm trying to get myself sorted. I'm trying to pressure Jeff to get me sorted. I'm on to Joe Collins. Joe Collins is now messaging Norton Lee, the owner. It's worth 100 million, to the point where Jeff, I need surgery. I need, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I've got this meeting. I've met this guy, Lars Neumann, a Swedish guy in Rotherham. And he's turned around and said, Mark, it's life-threatening. You've snapped your collarbone here. It's floating. If that if you sleep on your right side at night in deep sleep, that pushes against your trachea. It stops your windpipe. It stops your breathing. You're dead. You don't wake up. You're dead. I was like 6 to 8 weeks at this time. Okay, that I've been sleeping on my right side, Nick, because you just roll over during your sleep. In deep sleep, you roll over. I probably would have died. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was shocked. So painkiller, drinking, alcohol, off the rails. I'm still in a sling. I'm still going to meet the guys in Nottingham and have a beer, and I'm on painkillers, and I'm just going from worse to worse. My career's ended. I could see that. My career's finished. I could see the Great Britain team dwindle away. I've missed this year's World Championships. Everything was starting to go, all the highs like being Ice Warrior and all this, it's just gone overnight. Bang, one injury, finished. Not getting any wages. They wasn't paying me. So Joe Collins is still on to Norton Lee, and he wasn't answering calls. He wasn't answering emails. He wasn't doing ignoring me, completely ignoring me. I was still going to the games. I was still wanting to be part of the team. Paul Cruz and Brad Lauer and Pete Laboutelet and Scott Allison still wanted me to be there. I was part of the team. They was calling me into the dressing room. And they knew something wasn't right, to the point where I've opened a massive can of worms, Nick. Massive can of worms for the whole sport, for the league. Basically, the whole league was cherry picking players. They was picking players on the highest salary. They was insuring them. They was down. So you got a list of players. There was probably about 5 players with insurance. The rest wasn't insured. To the point, legend Ron Shudra, I see, wasn't insured. So I've gone, this is just crazy. It's criminal. So no calls from Norton Lee. Nothing's happening. So I've told the guys on the way down to Bracknell, I said, guys, I've got a printout now. Cruz is insured. Brad Lau's insured. Ron, you're not insured. Jeff Sebastian, you're not insured. The goalie, I forget his name now. He wasn't insured. So the game was delayed by about 45 minutes, and the fans couldn't realise what it was. And it was basically the facts went through to John Nike, and John Nike said, guys aren't insured. We need to notify Blazer. Your guys aren't insured. You're stepping foot on this ice. Anything can happen. You can have a fight with Schulte or anything, and you're not insured. So that's when the players started to get really behind me and say, "Look, get
Was it just
Smurf."
Sheffield? Was it just Sheffield players that weren't insured, or was
Across
it
the
league?
board. Across the
Okay.
board, that there was cherry picking, because back then it was I think it was like £1,200 a year to insure, to be on this certain policy to be insured. And what they was doing, correct me if I'm wrong, don't know how true this is, but when a player got injured, on this form, they would backdate, put their name down as he got backdated the insurance policy, so he's all of a sudden insured. No. So now I've gone to my local MP, because there's clearly a problem within the sport. This is when Sky Sports, yourself, Nick, I don't know if you're aware, but the major sponsors, BMI Baby, they found out Great Britain International, Marc Twaite, is playing in the Super League without medical insurance. We don't want to be sponsoring an organisation that's not even protecting its assets. That's like buying a Porsche, driving down the road with no insurance. You wouldn't do it. That you wouldn't send a scaffolder on a scaffold on the top of a roof on the Empire State Building without insurance. So this was crazy. There's a risk in every job you do, and there was a risk in ice hockey, clearly. And I was employed, and I signed this contract, but wasn't insured. So now it's like I'm into the Ice Hockey News Review, local MP, Paddy Tippin, my European MP, Chris Eaton-Houghton. Then I was on to June Swan, Sport England. I know all these names because I was in touch with them all the time. Then I had the BBC Politics show come and interview me at the Sheffield Arena and say, look, what's happening? And the MPs have done their own work and said, yeah, Mark and other players that's playing professional ice hockey in the Super League are not insured. During this period, I'm pressuring, and now it's highlighted to the point Norton Lee's got to do something. So to the point where I'm booked in for surgery on this, not this, but this first. It was £7,000. The night before I'm booked in to go for private surgery. I've booked the taxi to go there in the morning, blah, 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 blah. I've not eaten, not drank because I'm going for major surgery. I get an email from Norton Lee, a phone call from Norton Lee's office. The lady is cancelled the surgery. This is like 11 weeks. Okay, gutted. So I've waited all this time with a life-threatening injury, pink bombs, alcohol still, my head's gone, my career's finished, I'm not getting paid any wages. My bills are adding up at home. I'm missing my mortgage payments. You can name it, Nick, all right? I can't eat. I'm on soup. I'm going downward spiral in a big way. Second time I'm booked in for surgery, cancelled 2 weeks later. He won't pay the £7,000. £100 million this guy was worth, and he wouldn't pay his £7,000. What was the most disappointing thing, Nick, is the teams I'd played for. I'd played for Neil Black. I'd played for Mike Cowley at Coventry. I'd played for all these guys at Cardiff, Bob Phillips, blah, blah. Why couldn't they step in? You know, I knew a lot of influential people in the game that were still involved in the sport that could have done something, but they didn't. They ignored me. And that was the most demoralizing thing. Once you're a friend and once they want you to bleed for the badge, and, you know, and now they don't want you because you're injured. You're not an asset to them no more. You're no good to them because you're injured. They don't want you, you know, and that was the most disappointing thing. I'd bled for them people, you know, and to the point where even my father picked on something that some kid, he broke his arm in a training or something for one of and the bucket went round, right? And it wasn't life threatening, and I feel for the kid, but the bucket went round for him and he got 12 grand or something in the bucket. Smurf, nothing. And that's when it hit home to my parents, you know. My mum and dad was just distraught and angry, you know. So third operation comes up. Finally, I get the third operation, Nick. So I go to a private hospital, even though it was funded by the NHS. It wasn't funded by Norton Lee. I heard it was wangled through the NHS cleverly. I think it was from day one. That's why there was cancellations, that I had a date and I had to wait. That's how it was on the NHS. It wasn't through the insurance policy because there wasn't one. Anyway, I go for surgery. The surgeon's there on the bed. Can you please sign the consent form, Mark? The anaesthetist is about to put you under, blah, blah, blah. He said, you're my guinea pig. I went, why is that then? He said, I've never done this procedure before. You're my first. Oh, God, as if that wants to give you, you know, all what I've been through, confidence. A surgeon's told me that. I'm the guinea pig. So I've gone, look, just sign, get me under, get it done. I've had enough, like. So I'm laid on a bed talking to the nurse, and next minute I'm under. I wake up, breathing apparatus, pinned to a bed, on a harness, sat up with a row of nurses, white, blue, sky blue, mass, and, you know, they was all writing things down. I couldn't breathe. I'm panicking. I'm stressed. I'm like, what? Anyway, all of a sudden, I'm gone again. That's all I can remember. I'm gone again. At the point where they're putting morphine in my side, jabbing me in the side. I wake up again and I'm like, but then my breathing's getting better. So I'd either passed out, I'd had a cardiac arrest, I don't know. I can't get my medical reports. I've gone. I've woke back up and someone's pumping me in the side, and now I'm starting to breathe. My lung was inflating, apparently. That's what they were saying. Your lung's starting to inflate. I'm like, my lung? There's nothing wrong with my lung. What are you talking about? The surgeon had drilled through my collarbone straight into my lung, punching my lung. Great. I was the guinea pig. So anyway, I'm pinned to the bed. I'm on a breathing oxygen apparatus. I'm like that for 3 days. Doctor comes in, puts boxes and boxes and boxes of painkillers and says, look after yourself. Okay. Right. So I'm already on alcohol. I'm already pink bombs for, you know, my head's gone. I'm in debt. I'm losing my house. I'm losing everything. My career's finished. Sports, all my friends are gone. I've not seen them for weeks. And now I'm being given a load of painkillers. Look after yourself. That was what the doctor said. I've left the hospital. I've gone home. I've got I've got a drip of morphine, which just drips pure morphine into the joint for about 2 weeks. It was bleeding. the pipe used to pop out. I used to put the pipe back in. It was bleeding. Then I got an infection, but nightmare. So I'm popping these painkillers, pink bombs, and these or codeine, ever you name it. All right. Don't drink on these tablets, whatever you do. One time I went out in Nottingham like an idiot with a girl. I had a couple of Budweiser, passed out when I got home. Dangerous. Sleeping on the bed like that for weeks, couldn't lay down. Of course, I had to be pinned in this harness that was strapped to me. Didn't see anyone from Sheffield for weeks until Jeff Butcher wasn't even in touch then. Nobody was in touch. It was like, Smurf's done. That's it. Finished. See ya. Wave goodbye. Till I got an invite at the Super League playoff finals at Nottingham. Sheffield actually won it that year. I think it was, I can't remember who made the call now. I think it was Blazer, actually. Blazer made the call and said, Smurf, we want you down there to be part of it. I said, oh, cheers, Mike. He said, I know what you've gone through. It's horrendous. He said, and what can we do? As you know, we can only do so much as players. It's down to the ownership. It's down to the league. It's down to Ice Hockey UK as well, you know, and the International Ice Hockey Federation, because they govern the Super League. End of. So there I was. I go to celebrate with the boys on the ice. Scott Allison dragged me on the ice. I celebrate with the boy. I'd never forget it. I was grateful. It was chuffed a bit. Still felt part of it, Nick. But then that was it. I had a beer with the boys, and that was it. All of a sudden, boom. Life after hockey. And that's when it was just roller coaster, painkiller addiction, alcohol addiction, fighting in Nottingham with Dorman, being arrested. 4 arrests. I remember the senior police officer saying, Mark, you fight again in Nottingham. I was off the rails, Nick. You fight again in Nottingham, you're doing 4 months in prison because we just can't have it. I had a blind solicitor, Digby Johnson, an absolute legend in his industry. Digby Johnson kept it all out in the media. Marc Twaite was off the rails. He was getting arrested. He was fighting in town. He was beating Dorman up. He was, oh, Nick, it was, you know, I was losing my house. I've had to rent it now to try and pay mortgage. I've gone from that to living in a caravan. I'm living on soup. The one winter nearly see me off. I'll never forget that. It was hard, mate. Fucking hell. Yeah. And then I've gone from that to living in a caravan to homeless, pretty much. Nobody was there for me, mate. Nobody. All right. So I'm filling up. So it was me against the world, and everything was on top of me. And I was in the family business then as well. Sorry, my voice is gone.
Hey, brother.
My my dad just had open heart surgery. My my brother was on depression tablets as well. He was going through the wars, and I was just rock bottom. Like, I was out all night drinking painkillers, out with the boys. They couldn't see it, and I was the wild one. Pretty much similar to what Gaza went through. Like, Gaza was the wild one, you know. But so I've gone through this period of my life, 2, 3 years. I'm still waiting for this surgery. I've had this one, still not right, never will be right. I'm on the NHS waiting list for physiotherapy in Nottingham. 14 weeks I've got to wait. Sheffield are just, ice hockey just, see ya, you know, shocking. I got it to the House of Commons. I got it to court. All of a sudden now Bob Phillips is the owner of the Sheffield Steelers. Bob Phillips says, I can give you $5,000. That's it. Wave goodbye. That's all I can give you, Mark, for your inconvenience. I'm like, you kidding me? You know, or what I've been through. The career-ending injury policy back then was $25,000 plus court costs, fees, and plus your wages, what you was owed. It was about 35, 38 grand. That's what Joe Collins was going after. Everybody knew, but it wasn't until I wasn't willing to quit. I'm like, you guys are paying for this. Individually, you guys are paying for this. You put me through hell. You put my family through hell. I'm not giving up on this. 9 years I was fighting in court, Nick, and it was a battle every day. And I had to sell my house. HSBC lost my house, so now I'm homeless. I'm in my home now, still my van. Um, so then I've got Chris, I've got it's in the House of Commons. I've got letters in the House of Commons, and they're fighting my corner. And still to this day, I can't believe that the House of Commons and all the letters I've got from all these MPs, all the ministers of sport, Richard Cabourn, and all of them, did nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was just ignored as if it never took place. No one in the sport, no one. Only the one summer when it really got into the press, it got into the news of the world, onto the BBC. I had Tomo call me, I had Davy Graham call me, and I had Scott Neal in Edinburgh call me and say, "How are you, Smurf?" That was it. "How are you, Smurf? Are you all right?" I said, "I'm surviving, guys. I'm getting through. This is what's happening, and I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up." All of a sudden, Norton Lee's he's gone out the sport. He's been forced to sell. Bob Phillips has now got the sport. I was told Bob Phillips had 30 grand cash put aside in the safe in the office at Sheffield Arena. When it all kicked off and the police was investigating, Bob Phillips was declared a non-resident of the UK. He was gone to Oman. See ya, bankrupt. Marini Phillips, don't know what happened to Marini Phillips. There was only one guy left in the house, Dave Sims. Joe Collins was chasing for the 30 grand cash in the what do you call it, in the safe, because that was supposedly been left for Marc Twaite to cover his injury, his kind of payoff. That went missing. Still in the House of Commons, still in court, to the point where he's gone from South Yorkshire franchise to another company name, My court case has gone from London to Birmingham to somewhere else, Bristol. I think it went for a week. Mate, it was just a gong show. And still to this day, Nick, nobody's been made accountable. Still to this day. But I'm still breathing, mate. I'm here. I'm here.
Like, Mark, thank you for telling your story. My heart's just, it hurts, because I think I wasn't in the country. I think it was when I got back into London and I reached out to you about coming down to London to help me out. I didn't know all this had gone on.
Yeah.
And I saw, let's be honest, I see your posts, and you're upbeat. You're always trying to cause positive Smurf energy, and you have a love of fishing. You've set up a business. Am I right? You found a new purpose after hockey.
100%. Yeah.
That's enabled you to at least ride this out this far.
Yeah. I mean, I managed my addictions. I started to hit the gym. I was fishing a lot. I love the great outdoors, the greenery. Watching water is a relaxant, Nick. I know a lot of the military guys that suffer with post-traumatic stress disorder. Angling is hugely important. Going for a walk, exercise, your diet. So now I'm in the gym. I'm on the punch bag. Okay, even with my bad shoulder, that anger inside you, I was letting go on the punch bag. I was going jogging and then fishing, catching big fish. Believe it or not, was a buzz. It ticked my box. It was what I wanted. It was okay, I've been on that rocky road, but now this is a road. I need to turn right, and angling's the right path. And I'm on this path now, and I'm going to give 100% and 110% like I did on that path for a period of time of my life. That one's gone now. That road's blocked. I've got to turn this way, and I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to give 110%. And I don't care who you are, but if you give 100%, 10% of something you love, something you're passionate about, you'll be successful at it. And that's anything. It can be anyone at any time, wherever you are in the world. And you've got to be positive. And my diet was crucial. My sleep pattern was crucial to get these negatives and these demons out of my head, to forget about all what I've told you. And that was to write things down. And I just, at night, to clear my head, to get a good night's sleep, wasn't painkillers no more. It wasn't pink bombs to knock me out. It wasn't half a bottle of Jack Daniels and 20 pints. It was to write things down. And it was something like a yogurt would come up, or grass or lake or big fish, or car needs cleaning, or random things I was just jotting down. Try it, trust me. And I was doing that at night. Everything that come in my, and I just wrote it down. My head was clear. All of a sudden, I'm getting a good night's sleep. Then once I started to get on the path, it was like angling. I got dangled the carrot. Very good at carp fishing, was catching good fish all around the country. I loved it. I got to meet different people, and the carrot got dangled. I want you in this magazine, Mark. I want you to do this. Can you wear this clothing? Wonderful. Now I've got another sport I'm passionate about that I did as a kid that I'm now taking really serious, traveling all over the country. I loved it, Nick. And it was a fish called Benson, and it was my target that I just wanted to catch a 50-pound carp. And this was in 2000, 2001, 2002, after all what I'd been through. So it was like 2000 and all what I'd gone through with the injury, 2005, 2006. This was during still going through hell, but while I was going through hell, I was fishing. All right. I was managing it. I was monitoring it. And now all of a sudden, I'm still in court, but I'm fishing and I'm chasing. My focus is on Benson, a 50-pound common. That was my goal. I'd come off this. I was focusing on this now. So I'd completely changed, mindset was completely changed. So, yep, I ended up catching Benson. It was the British record, British unregistered record, common carp, 58-pound two, massive carp, massive buzz. Now I'm a carp angler, I'm an angler, I'm a fisherman, to the point where I was getting pretty good at it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use not you, and promote you. I'm going to promote myself. Marc Twaite. I want a brand. I want a logo. I want my own bait. I want my own clothing range to promote me. Because why not? I'm a copyright. I'm a trademark. The name Nick Rothwell is a copyright. He's a trademark. Hence Retribe. I get it, right? So all of a sudden now I've gone to Pucker Squirrel Baits, started this up. Why Squirrel? Because a legend of the sport, Rob Malin, Bounty Publications, turned around and said, Mark, you're a real secret squirrel. I said, why is that, Rob? He said, all these big fish you've caught all over the country, you've kept them all quiet. So that was it. The secret squirrel. Everybody was talking about Marc Twaite, Pucker Squirrel Baits, blah, blah, blah. So now I've got a very successful business, been running 13 years, Nick. So I've got a wonderful team. I've done a lot for the British deaf carp anglers. I started that up for them. I actually helped out with the Ladies England team the one weekend. I've done a lot for magazines. I've made front cover of magazines, very proud of that. I've got my autobiography out, very proud of that. The Ice That Melted. I've met a lot of good people. I do a lot for the military. I did draws for the military, the ICCCs at Walthamstow and Raysbury, 160 senior military people in front of me, and I'm doing the draw. I was honoured. Lovely, lovely guys. With total respect for them guys. One of them still does. Mark Harroway does my website. He's top IT in the military. Does my website. Lovely, lovely guy. So I feel now I'm giving back. I'm not just catching for myself. I'm not just catching to feed my habit, to tick my boxes inside, to give me that buzz, that adrenaline as a man, that hunter, that catching that big fish. It's the great outdoors, the nature. It's hard to describe, Nick. The owls, feeding the owls, kingfisher landing on your rod, the sunrises, the sunsets, but to help people, to put smiles on people's faces. So now I'm like, I do private tuitions. I advise and help my team to catch big fish, because I get that phone call in the morning. That phone call that come just earlier on the first bit, that was probably one of the guys I've caught a big fish, and he's buzzing. And he can't wait to tell me, Mark, your bait, you told me to do this, and I've caught the biggest in the lake. I know it's coming, And that gives me a great deal of satisfaction, Nick, is to help people and give back. And I mean that, mate. And when you put smiles on faces, it's a great job. I get no money from it. Well, I get wages from, what I do. But for someone to catch a big fish and the smile on his face on social media, keep smiling is my saying, because it answers all the negativity and it answers all your critics, is to keep smiling, stay positive and all that. And it's, but without a different change in mindset and my attitude to life and the positive, all the negatives, I had to forget about Bob Phillips. I had to forget about the Super League. I had to forget about my injury. It was hard, very hard. Never leaves you, Nick. Never leaves you. But I manage it now. Them demons, I know how to deal with it, if that makes sense. But the
Hmm.
painkiller addiction, the alcohol was making it worse. It was dragging me down. Cut all that back, and it's all gone. And now I've moved on. You know, now it's a coffee and a chocky hobnob, and it's a totally
Yeah,
different way of life. Relaxing, watching water, sunrise, sunset.
yeah.
It's a piece of the mind, Nick. You know, it's hard to describe unless you do it, but I'm out of it, mate. You
Yeah.
know, and I put on social media yesterday, 23 years, and I'm now. I can say I'm smiling and I'm positive. I'm stronger than ever. I'll do a post and I'll just show how big.
Yeah, I see it.
This
I
is
see
how
it, buddy.
strong I am now. Like
Yeah.
I'm fearless now. I'm undefeated. When you've been as low, Nick, you've been there, buddy. I've
Oh
watched what
yeah.
you've been through, and I followed your similar, very similar. And there's a lot of guys like us that's come forward, and I'm reading their vlogs and blogs, and what you do is brilliant to get people like me talking, opening up, because it clears the system, it clears the mind, but it helps other people, Nick. You're helping me, and I'm helping you, and whoever watches this, it's going to help them. This is how
Yeah.
Mark deal with it. You know, Mark took up fishing. I'm going to take up fishing, and I've looked at such as Ricky Hatton, Paul Gascoigne. They fishing. They're fishing now. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
noticed they're angling, and
Oh,
it,
I've got some good some friends, well, some cousins, in my family. They're big fishermen, and
there
it's
you
their
go.
solace. It's their and I suppose, Mark, it's just your third period is inspirational. I'm sorry for what you've been through. Thank you for sharing your story and the fact
You're
that
welcome.
you've come
You're
through
welcome.
this. You found purpose in your life, and now you're spreading beautiful Smurf energy and keep smiling. And
Yeah,
that's what you are. You are. You know, your smile is contagious, and it does help
very
people.
true.
So, and your story helps people. So, I'm going to end the third period there,
Yeah,
and I just a little bit of overtime though, because I think back a lot. And I'm over 7 years sober. I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams.
good man.
I've got a
Good man.
beautiful wife. I've got three stepsons. I've got a life that, even 4 years ago, I would say, would you want this life? I would say, like, I wouldn't expect to have a life this beautiful.
Yeah,
But I do at times, Mark. I look back with some self pity and some regret. I look back at my career on TV, and I was like, man, I could have done a lot better. I was scared. I started using drugs and alcohol back then. Maybe, the people who I presented with are superstars today. Maybe I could be a superstar today. And I sit back and with some regret and some remorse, and sometimes I can feel some self pity around it. Do you do you have regrets? Do you feel lonely sometimes? No?
no, no,
No.
never, no regrets, Nick. God, no. I've always been given opportunities, what I've explained, all in all walks of life, and I've grabbed that opportunity and gave it 100%. If it's a winner and if it's successful, go with it.
Mm-hmm.
If it fails, there's something else. A window closes, a window opens, mate. You know that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
a big believer in like you've got to have it inside. You've got to have the fighting. You've got to have the winner inside you. But it comes with a lot of sacrifice, as you know. You've got to sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the good things, what you used to do and love and liked. You've got to sacrifice that for a short period of time in your life to overcome, walk through them dark clouds to see the sun, see the sunlight, and focus on that energy. And I don't regret anything. And I tell you what, loneliness, I see like my father now, we lost mum, bless her little heart in February. And I see dad on his own sometimes, and I try and do as much. I can get that with the vulnerable and the elderly. It's horrible to be alone, but sometimes I think you need that peace. You need that bit of freedom. You need that bit of sanctuary, on your own to just think back, look back, but think back and look back to how far you've come, to what you've accomplished, to who you've helped, and to what smile you've put on faces, and what you've achieved, and be grateful of that. And the people you've met and rubbed shoulders with, and I often look back when I'm fishing, Nick, and I'm just sat there watching the water. I'm waiting for a bite. I'll put the kettle on, have a coffee, and I often think about, oh, I remember that team. Remember that? God, I remember when we went out that night to Hooters. Oh, I remember that time and it all comes back, and it's all smiles.
Mm-hmm.
It is, mate. I just look at the smile. I look at the good things, and I think if you start to look and find the negatives, they're easy to find. I've always said Great Britain's a negative nation. We pick on the negatives. The media, the news, everything you look at is negative. Everything is forced in your throat negative. Soon there'll be someone out there, a reporter, a TV channel that's nothing but positive and highlights inspirational people, what people can relate to, learn off, bounce off,
Yeah.
and I get what you're doing. I get what Plus is doing,
Yeah. Well
gloves
done.
off.
Yeah.
I get the mental, I get it. I follow Frank Bruno. I follow a lot of people that suffered. I follow these people because they're inspirational. I don't follow these egos that's got 10 million viewers because of he went on Love Island and what really like get away. You guys don't have
Yeah.
no idea. These legends I'm following are real. They've been low at their lowest point in life. They've bounced back. They've got through life in their own way. You've got to do it yourself, Nick. You know that. It's yourself. You can't rely on others. It's all got to be yourself. And I've watched these guys come from the low to the high. Now look how successful they are, and I respect that because I've been there. And yeah, that
You know,
negativity, block, move on,
do you,
positive.
I'm
More
just,
energy.
I get it sometimes. I do get it, but I do have the tools to work through it and to know that my darkest moments are my biggest strengths.
Yeah, totally.
Everything I've been through, and I can quickly get out of it. But sometimes I have to be honest. Sometimes I do have those regrets. But what
Okay.
you've said, Mark, what you have said is the key, I do believe, to any part of recovery, any part of purpose, repurpose, finding a new life after an old life in sport, particularly hockey, is to
Yeah.
find something where you can put yourself in a place to help other people. And you said it,
Yeah.
helping others. And I base my life on that today, is to try to help other people. And you, my friend, in this, we've way gone over a hockey game. I just want to hear your stories. You are very compelling, and you tell the story very, very well. And I just kind of wanted to let it run. And I'm grateful that I did, because you have you've really warmed my heart today with your story and your emotions and your vulnerability and your compassion and your ultimate bit of finding a new purpose, being repurposed, to doing what you're doing today. So, Mark,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. No, it's been good, and like you said, it is that brotherly thing, isn't it? Where look, you can have that conversation, and we've all been, done something similar. We have, even though them that's not talking about it, or it's not been in, it's not been in the press or whatever. They've probably still had a bit of a rough ride, and you know, we're winners, we're fighters, aren't we, as hockey players, Nick? It's just in the blood, mate, and it's just
Yeah.
it's how we are, and yeah. No, it's good to talk to you,
Keep,
Nick. I really appreciate you having me on, mate. I really do. It's been good.
thanks, Mark. Keep smiling, brother.
Yeah, you keep smiling too, mate. Take care.
You too, buddy. Bye for now.
Bye bye. Bye.